Hi, second graders. Welcome to reading. This week, our main story is called Mr. Tannen's Tie Trouble, and this story was written by Marianne Kaka Leffler. And the essential question is, how can helping others make you feel good? So I'm going to go ahead and read the story while you follow along, and then, like I do, I will stop at certain points and ask you some questions. Mr. Tannen loved being the principal of the Lyndhurst School. He also loved his ties. In fact, he has almost 1,000 crazy ties. When Mr. Tannen returned from winter vacation, he received a call from Mr. Apple at the school department. Mr. Apple told him that because many things at the school had to be fixed, there wasn't enough money left for a new playground. Let's go with our first question. Why isn't there enough money for a playground? Why isn't there enough money for a playground? You can go back and you can find the answer that because many things at the school had to be fixed. So because of that, there wasn't enough money left for a new playground. So boys and girls, we've talked about how sometimes you can find the answers right in the book. They're right there. And sometimes the answers are in our heads. We have to just look at some clues. We have to think about what we know about how things work, and we can come up with answers all on our own. Mr. Tannen sadly hung up the phone and gazed out at the broken-down playground. He heard a clink-clank. He looked up to see Kaylee and Alex lugging in a big jar filled with money. "Here it is, $148.29 for the playground fund," said Kaylee proudly. "New playground, here we come," cheered Alex. Mr. Tannen didn't know what to say. Okay, next question. What kind of fund might you like to start at your school? What kind of fund might you like to start at your school? Is there something that Rockford could use? Is there something we don't have that we could raise money for and get? Think about that. After school, Mr. Tannen sat in his office staring at the jar. He sighed. "Now, I'm in a real pickle. This is not enough money for a playground. The kids will be so disappointed." Mr. Apple's words floated around in his head. "The playground will have to wait. You'll think of something. I wish our account was as full as your tie closet." As full as my tie closet," repeated Mr. Tannen. Notice how the author wrote, Mr. Apple's words floated around in his head. He had all kinds of thoughts, and look at how the author chose to write those words, as though those ideas were actually floating. He jumped up, opened his closet, and shouted, "That's it! My ties! Lyndhurst School will have a new playground." Okay, what do you think Mr. Tannen means by being in a real pickle? Have you heard that expression before? If you're in a pickle, that means you've got a problem you got to figure out a solution to. And here's Mr. Tannen holding all of his ties. Those are pretty fun ties, aren't they? Okay, we'll go to the next page. The next day, the entire town was plastered with signs. "Mr. Tannen's Tie Action, Saturday at 7 p.m. at the Lyndhurst School. A tie for any occasion. All ties must go." It's pretty generous of him, isn't it, to give up his ties to raise some money because he knows how important it is to the kids. Okay, let's think about understanding characters. We're going to actually talk about that a little more tomorrow, but what does Mr. Tannen do to help raise money for the playground? What do his actions tell you about him? So think about Mr. Tannen willing to give up his ties to raise money. What does that tell you about him as a person? What kind of person is he? Just think about that for now. You can say it out loud if you'd like, and then we'll discuss that more tomorrow. Mrs. Sweetapple noticed the sign on the grocery store window. She called her husband, Mr. Apple. Why is Mr. Tannen selling all his ties? Has he gone crazy? Mr. Apple told her about the school budget and the playground money. The town was buzzing all day. Mrs. Sweetapple called Monsieur Beaujeu at the bakery. Okay, let me see if I have any questions for you here. So what clues in the text help you understand the meaning of the word budget? If you don't know what budget means, what clues could you use to help you? What do you think? So the sentences mention playground money for the school. So a budget must be a plan on how the school spends its money. Just like your families probably have a budget or a plan for how they spend their money. Okay, let's go back here one second. Mrs. Sweetwater called Monsieur Beaujeu at the bakery, who called Cleo at the cleaners, who called Dr. Demi the dentist. It went on and on until even Zack the night watchman at the zoo got word Mr. Tannen is selling his ties. On Saturday, the whole town showed up for the auction. Monsieur Beaujeu started the bidding. I'll give you $50 for the donut and Danish tie. Lolly the librarian bought the book tie. Dr. Demi was the proud owner of the toothbrush tie. Kaylee handed over her entire piggy bank for the hot dog tie. Mrs. Sweetapple just had to have that wedding bells tie, and of course Mr. Apple chuckled as he paid quite a bit of cash for the crab apple tie. What tie would you want to get? If you could buy one of Mr. Tannen's ties, what would your tie look like? How do the characters react when they hear about the tie auction? Are they surprised that he'd be selling all of his ties? Okay, and the auction goes on. Oops. The auction was a huge success. Every tie was sold except one. Mr. Tannen couldn't part with his beloved blue ribbon tie. It was a present from Mr. Apple for being a great principal. He looked out at the sea of townspeople, all wearing his ties. Do you think he was deserving of that blue ribbon tie? Do you think he's a good principal? I think yes. Thank you all. I have always taught my students the more you give, the more you get. With this money, the Lyndhurst School will have a new playground. Mr. Tannen swallowed hard. My ties now belong to the town. Wear them proudly. And throughout the spring, that's what everybody did. So what do you think Mr. Tannen means when he says, the more you give, the more you get? What do you think he means by that? Have you ever had an opportunity where you volunteered, you helped other people in need? How did that make you feel? Did that make you feel really good inside? So the more you do those kinds of things, the more you actually get, because those feelings you get inside are worth a lot more than the things that you give away. But sometimes Mr. Tannen would forget his closet was empty. He would open it to get a tie, and with a tinge of sadness he would remember he only had one tie, and he was wearing it. Then he'd look outside at the playground being built. You have to give to get, he thought. So he's feeling a little sad, but he remembers that what he did was the right thing to do. Soon it was opening day at the new playground. Mr. Tannen had invited the whole town to the ribbon-cutting ceremony. He tucked his speech in his pocket, grabbed his special scissors, and adjusted his tie. He wished he had on his official ribbon-cutting tie. The schoolyard was overflowing with people. Mr. Tannen made his way through the crowd. Then he saw it. Look at the sign here, Mr. Tannen's playground. They dedicated it to him. The playground was tied in a giant ribbon made from Mr. Tannen's ties. How fun is that? Mrs. Sweetapple and Mr. Apple were at the microphone. Mr. Tannen, you have taught us all. The more you give, the more you get, said Mrs. Sweetapple. You have given us a playground. We are giving you back your ties. Right. Let me go back to, hang on one second here. Nope. Okay. With that, Mr. Apple untied the tie ribbon and announced, Mr. Tannen's playground is now open. Okay, let's go back to this picture here. How do you think Mr. Tannen feels? How does Mr. Tannen feel at the end of the story? And then how do you know he's feeling that way? I think he's feeling pretty good. The school got the playground that they needed, got his ties back. He's looking pretty happy, isn't he? So everybody pitched in to pay for that playground. Okay, so this was our first reading of the story. Tomorrow we will reread the story together in class. So remember, friends, you cannot forget, please bring back your reading textbook because I need to give you the new textbook and we need our books tomorrow. Okay, so bring those back for sure, along with your Chromebooks, along with your chargers, along with all the things that you brought home that belong at school. Okay, your toolbox, your writing notebook, your planners, all the things that we need back at school. And then all the work you've done, bring back as well, but things that I sent home with you that are finished from before, you can just keep there. Okay, have a great rest of your day. Actually, I will see you later with my math video. And again, pop in at 12 o'clock if you have any questions today.